Femcel is a term that's been growing a lot in popularity as of lately. For some reason, incel culture has become such a movement that even women now want to become incels. Well, what exactly is a femcel? Femcel is a term that came from female combining with incel, and incel meaning involuntary celibate. It really makes you wonder, can women be involuntary celibate? I mean, even femcels don't seem to really understand that the cell is supposed to stand for celibate.
I'm no longer a virgin, but I did lose my B card at age 23.
Ah yes, the femcel origin story, what a classic, losing your virginity at 23, that is entirely celibate. Femcels, or women who identify as involuntary celibate, are on the rise. Well, I hate to break the news to you, but you can't just identify as involuntary celibate because it's involuntary. You don't get to choose it. If you asked an incel if he was an incel, he would probably say no, because he's either embarrassed about the fact, or he just doesn't see things from outside the box and thinks there's still hope left for him. Which hopefully there is. I don't wish being an incel upon any man, but it's weird to me that some women are taking a male exclusive issue, a very serious issue, and are like cosplaying it. Femcel influencers urge their followers to give up on gender equality and use men for financial gain. Using men for financial gain is not celibacy. Like, imagine if it was written the other way. It wouldn't make any sense. Like, imagine if the article was written, incel influencers urge their followers to give up on gender equality and use women for financial gain. That wouldn't make any sense, because an incel would never have that opportunity. POV, you go on a date with a femcel. Date? Femcel? Doesn't that kind of ruin the point? I mean, look, I'm gonna give you a scenario. Maybe this will help you understand what I'm talking about. You have a man that's under 5'5", overweight, very unattractive, ungroomed, unkept, jobless, and despite all of this, he somehow develops a narcissistic personality disorder. So not only is this man ugly and unattractive, but he gains no money, and due to his personality, he's just not pleasant to be around. Now you have 100 women lined up taking a look at him. Do you think any one of these women would even entertain the thought of sleeping with this man? The obvious answer is no. Now, if the reverse was the same, let's say you had a woman who is overweight, ugly, and has a very terrible personality and is very unpleasant to be around. Out of 100 dudes, there is at least like 10 that would still hit. Like, literally while editing this video, I found the exact scenario. Like, 20 men were lined up for a chance to date this 36-year-old woman with kids. And these weren't ugly guys either.
Female offspring are almost guaranteed to reproduce, famine or no famine, because male mammals are pretty much always willing to mate. Males, on the other hand, have to compete for mating privileges. A well-nurtured hunk has a good chance of mating with lots of females, while a male weakened by famine might not score at all.
I mean, it's literally just biology. It's just nature. Like, women cannot be involuntary celibate. That's just not how the world works. It's just not biology. Like, you remember that one subreddit that got shut down because the subreddit was about lonely women talking about their problems, and men came flocking over to try and fix their loneliness issue. This caused the subreddit to literally then go onto lockdown. In fact, the subreddit went public again since it went private in 2016, and 2 years ago, somebody posted this exact post on it saying that, "I hate that some men think that forever alone women have it easy and have so many options when a majority of those options are just men seeking out lonely women for sex." And it's like, well, I mean, you still have options though. And I don't think every single one of those men are looking for just sex. They're probably men that are lonely just like you and just think, well, lonely man, lonely woman equals a solution. I mean, think about it. Do you think a man who's looking just to hook up and have sex is going to go to fucking Reddit of all places? And then on the contrary, you have that one guy that was on YouTube that was famous for being ugly, and he went on YouTube to talk about his issues as an ugly, lonely man. And, you know, that diamond in the rough, that needle in the haystack came through, and a woman commented on his post saying, "Hey, I think you're actually kind of cool. We can get together." And then they ended up getting married. I think that just goes to show, like, the difference between an incel and a femcel, where, like, femcels seem to pretend like they don't have all these options out there when in reality they do. And incels, on the other hand, are, like, desperately trying to get out of incelhood. Like, it took this guy 25 million views over 7 years to find a wife. I promise you, a woman has never ever gone through these struggles in order to find a partner. But it all comes back down to the age-old question. Do femcels actually exist? On a technical definition note, I'm gonna say no, they don't exist. But if we twist the definition of incel to what pop culture and the media has been pushing, yeah, I guess technically a femcel does exist. It seems like everybody has just kind of forgotten that incel did mean involuntary celibate, meaning that this, no matter how hard this man tried, there's no way that he's going to be able to reproduce or even have a chance at a woman. Unless there's some kind of freak miracle, some 1 in a billion miracle that happens. That's the only way for this man to be able to have a chance with a woman. It seems like the line between incel and misogynist have been like blurred and have became like the exact same thing. I do understand the confusion because incels, due to their sexual frustration, tend to take it out on women, which makes them misogynistic. I also think modern feminists tend to use the word incel as an insult towards anybody that moderately disagrees with them. But if we're going off of the more modern definition of incel, where it's just a man that just hates women, then yeah, I would kind of agree that yeah, femcels do exist to some order of extent, because there's women out there that behave as if they don't get laid. Like, there's women that behave like the female version of incels despite not having incel problems. Like, they have all this hatred towards men, they're addicted to porn novels, they have somewhat unrealistic standards. Like, if you think your man has to be over 6 foot while making 10 to 20K a month, and you look like this, and then when you can't attract such men, you blame men, you are literally the female version of Elliot Rodgers. That was his exact issue. He was an average-looking man that wanted the best of the best-looking girls. And then when the best of the best-looking girls went to the best-looking guys, he blamed women for this issue. I think it's also interesting that the Oxford Dictionary, under the term incel, is a member of an online community of young men who consider themselves unable to attract women sexually. But for some reason, when people talk about femcels, it's just a woman who is just lonely and can't get into a relationship. Is it because women, no matter their circumstance or state, don't struggle to attract men sexually? Like, I think it's weird that these women who are so desperate for an intimate relationship also claim that booty calls and hookups are beneath them. But if a male incel was used as a booty call or a hookup, that would be like a dream come true to them. It seems like there's a double standard on the term celibacy when it comes to men versus women. For men, celibacy means he's unable to attract a woman sexually, but celibacy for a woman for some reason means she's unable to get into a meaningful relationship. Now, I have a few hypotheses as to why women are claiming to be femcels. Either one, they're going for some kind of incel aesthetic because during the pandemic, there was some weird shit going on where people were claiming incel aesthetics and the whole fake cell versus true cell thing came out. And then women started claiming being femcels. 2, they started confusing voluntary celibacy with actual involuntary celibacy. And they were just withdrawed from men thinking that this voluntary celibacy was involuntary. A lot of trans male to females try to claim being femcels, and I don't know if that really counts. I don't know, because, like, have you guys heard of the incel to transgender pipeline? So, like, there's an incel that has no luck with women. He feels like a failure of a man, so he thinks, okay, well, if I'm a failure of a man, I must be a woman. So when they start taking these hormone pill treatments to become a woman, they think that this is somehow going to improve their sex life. And on top of it, they claim to be lesbians, so that even though they are a male biologically, they believe that mentally they're a woman, and then they're lesbians so they can stay intact with their appropriate natural sexual partners, you know, being women. And then when women, for some unknown reason, don't want to have sex with them, these trans women then claim that they're femcels. Yeah, I'm honestly just as flabbergasted as you are. I think also just women have a different idea of what celibacy actually means versus what, you know, men and incels kind of view the word celibacy. Like, looking at it from a middle ground, obviously, like, almost any woman could go on a dating app and have a hookup within minutes. But, like, is that really what they want? Like, an incel's sex-craved mind might just think, oh my god, I just want to have sex. I don't care who it's with, just as long as it's not some prostitute with AIDS that I have to pay for. Like, I feel like some femcels view celibacy as a sexual relationship within a committed relationship and not like hookups and booty calls, whereas incels still kind of like include that. But I mean, then it just goes again back to the definition of celibacy. But I think each gender has their own problems when it comes to sexual relationships. Like incels just kind of want to have like sex and just, you know, lose their virginity to feel more like a man due to kind of like the societal pressures on men that are still virgins. And incels just don't really think that women have those kind of issues. Like if a woman is getting pressured for being a virgin, it'd be like really easy for her to lose her virginity. But on the flip side, women don't want to just throw that away, and they don't want to just have like hookups and, you know, booty calls. They want to actually have sexual relations with somebody that they're committed with. Which brings up the femcel issue, is that they want love. Like they want true love. They don't want just sex. And yes, I am well aware that the first incel was a woman and the term incel was made by a woman, but this was long before dating apps. This was long before hookup culture. It was a genuine different world back then, and I think there was just different problems back in 1997 when it came to like love and relationships. And it was kind of like, obviously, if you're having sex, it was within like a committed relationship back in those days. And, you know, obviously from a religious perspective, I just think people should wait for marriage anyways. Like if we all did that, this video wouldn't even be like a topic of discussion. I also think due to the rise of like hookup culture, there should be like two terms. Like a term for somebody who's looking for true love and can't seem to find that within a relationship, and somebody who genuinely cannot have sex no matter how hard they try, and that would be the incel. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a difference between a hopeless romantic that can't find like a true relationship. However, if they threw themselves into like hookup culture, they could get laid. There's a difference between that and an incel that, you know, is one, a hopeless romantic, but also just can't get laid no matter how hard they try. I also want to say that I think a lot of like incels are fake cells too. Like I think a true incel is actually really rare, and a lot of like people pretend to be incels due to like some subcultural thing or some kind of like trendy movement or something, when a lot of them could get laid if they actually tried. Like the darker side of the incel world, uncovering incels. You mean to tell me this guy is an incel? No, this guy could get laid if he actually tried. He could find a relationship if he actually tried.
I have had a sexual partner before, but I've really struggled with expressing myself to anybody at all.
Ryan still identifies as an incel, but his
How have you had a sexual partner before, but you still identify as an incel? You are no better than a femcel at this point. Like, if you've had a sexual partner before, if you've had sex before, but still hold hatred towards women, you're not an incel, you're just a normal misogynist. Like, remember back in the day when words actually had meanings and people actually had definitions attached to these words? But I do sympathize with the guys that no matter how hard they tried, they were just some freak genetic failure and they will never ever find the warmth of a woman. I do sympathize with them when they hear a woman claiming to have similar problems to them, but if this guy is considered to be an incel, then the girl from the beginning of the video, judging by looks alone, we could say she is technically a true femcel. I can't speak for all the incels out there, but from my personal perspective, I guess we could let a woman who's just like a hopeless romantic and can't find a sexual relationship within a serious relationship, I guess we could consider that a femcel. However, what doesn't make you a femcel is watching a specific kind of anime, dressing a certain way, listening to a certain kind of music, having a messy room.
I get asked what a femcel is, and I never know how to answer. Basically, one or two things. One, a female incel, which is an involuntarily celibate. Basically, just a very chronically online girl that, like, really likes certain kind of anime.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but listening to Weezer and watching Lane's Serial Experiment does not make you a femcel. Like, yeah, I guess there's some kind of, like, femcel core going around, but, like, that doesn't make you a femcel. Also, the second definition on Urban Dictionary is heavily sarcastic. Like, it's making fun of women who claim to be femcels. But in actuality, they're just women who have niche anime music taste while chronically online. Which I don't know how that relates to celibacy, since a lot of these women that are chronically online have a lot of dudes flooding their DMs, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or whatever they're on. Like, you have a chick who most likely has a bunch of dudes flooding their DMs online, and she's just like, oh my god, I have such a messy room. Oh my god, I'm gonna die an unlovable incel. You know, I used to watch Leafy is Here and I drink Monster Energy. I'm such a femcel. Like, what? Like, they'll have like hundreds of dudes subscribe to their OnlyFans, yet they'll still be trying to claim femcelhood or something. Like, there's that one chick, Skirby, I think is her name. I put her in the thumbnail of that femcel gooner video because she got caught incel pandering in one of her posts where she was like, yep, nope, a little bit more to the left. Yeah, no, put the empty McDonald's bags right here on the bed, right there, perfect. All right, guys. Hey, I'm such a cute incel. Subscribe to my OnlyFans now. I think this is the type of femcel that pisses people off, where they're like cosplaying a serious issue because it's became fetishized. And then, okay, this is gonna be kind of an incel take, but then more women follow lead because they want male attention. Like, I'm sorry, I had to say it, but I do think a lot of women pretend to be femcels for male attention because it's became something that's became fetishized. For a TLDW, here's basically a summary of the entire video. On a literal definition of femcel being female involuntary celibate, I don't think femcels exist, but if we're going off of a more technical definition from a female perspective, where a woman just genuinely wants love in a secure relationship, I guess a femcel can exist, but I do think there's a lot of like fake femcels, I guess you could say, where they think just listening to a certain kind of music and having certain interests and hobbies makes them a femcel, which is not true at all. So do femcels actually exist? I guess it's a complicated answer, but because I hate women and this is getting kind of complicated for my brain, I'm just gonna say no, they don't.
At least I'm not a girl.